guys, Nick here, and today I've got just a chill, soft-spoken, face-to-face ramble to share with you guys. I've got my mug of tea right here in my Hearthstone mug that I picked up on sale from the Blizzard store not long ago. It's pretty plain, but I like it a lot. And in it I've got some country peach tea from Celestial Seasonings. Which is nice, but it's getting a little bit cold now, actually, now that I've got everything set up here, but that's okay. So, as many of you know, no doubt, the Electronic Entertainment Expo E3 took place just this past weekend. And this is, of course, the premier industry show for the video games industry. And out of it come all kinds of exciting announcements of new games, of course, new services, new hardware, all kinds of stuff like that. And I posted on Facebook and Twitter just to see if anybody was interested in this kind of video where I count down my top 10 games that were announced at E3 this year. And a lot of you seemed pretty keen on it. So here we are. And for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter or on Facebook, those links are, of course, down in the video description. Every video, but you should come hang out there because it's a great place to interact with me. And I'd like to, bounce ideas off those folks as well. So if you'd like to be a little more involved with the channel, that's a great place to do so. So my top 10 list here, I've got a physical list. I actually wrote these out. How old school. How quaint. My list is, of course, my list. It's just my personal games that I thought were pretty interesting. I should point out I was away for the E3 weekend, out of any kind of contact, out of cell phone range, and everything. I was camping. And so I got back last night and I just gorged on E3 content, announcements and trailers and things. And so this is not a comprehensive list. It is, of course, my personal opinions of games that I think look interesting. To pare it down a little bit, what I've done is I've restricted it to only games that were officially announced at this E3. So it excludes anything that was previously announced. So no Battlefront 2, no Super Mario Odyssey, none of that kind of stuff, because we've already seen that, and I just wanted some kind of semi-arbitrary measure of paring down the games that I'm talking about today. And it's a little bit PC-centric, I guess, because I am primarily a PC gamer, with a little bit of Nintendo on the side, of course. But I don't do most of my gaming, or I do very little gaming on Xbox or PlayStation platforms, so this top 10 list will reflect that. It's a little quirky, and I think a lot of you will disagree with some of these selections, especially my number one, but whatever. Anyway, okay, I talk too much, before these videos. I know I do. I can't help it. It is a ramble, to be fair. So, the first game that I have on my list here is called Rock Galactic. And this is a co-op sci-fi shooter, I guess. And it looks like it's got some procedural elements in it, procedurally generated terrain, and it's got mining in it. So the central concept is you are playing a team of 4 space dwarves, and you I guess have a spaceship, and you land on a planet, and you are searching for resources down in the depths of the planet. But of course, there are aliens to contend with. And so it looks like there's mining and destructible terrain, and there's shooting of aliens. And it just looks like a fun time. It looked a little rough around the edges in the trailer, I won't lie, but I just thought it looked like it had spirit. It looked pretty fun, and I'm a sucker for co-op games. As you'll see, actually, in this list, there's a few co-op games that turn up, so. Rock Galactic looks pretty neat. And that's coming out on Xbox One and Windows. My number 9 game is called Ashen. And Ashen is another cooperative action game. It's an action RPG. I've dropped my list. And it looks like it's a 2-player undertaking. And not a whole lot was revealed about the story in the trailer, but it looks like it takes place in a world where volcanic eruptions or some kind of cataclysm have choked the atmosphere with ash, and everything is coated and buried in ash, and the sun has not shined for many, many years, and all kinds of dark things have come to inhabit the shadows. And you and a friend are playing through, it looked like a lot of interior underground environments in this sort of action RPG, very reminiscent of Dark Souls in terms of the combat. They demonstrated sort of dodge rolling and blocking and very slow, deliberate combat. And they showed the player characters dying more than a few times, and so I think it's going to be a Souls-like. But I liked the art direction. It was stylized in a really neat way. And like I said, I'm a sucker for co-op RPG experiences, especially. I really liked last year a game called Necropolis, which a lot of people sort of discounted or panned because it was pretty short and it had some shortcomings, but I think it was a very underrated co-op experience, and this reminds me a lot of that. So that's a game called Ashen, and it's coming to, once again, Xbox One and Windows. Okay, in my number 8 spot, I have some tea, and I've got a game here called Tunic. And if you haven't seen the Tunic trailer, you should probably go check it out, because it's this charming, super, super cute top-down action-adventure game that is very reminiscent of Zelda. Very reminiscent of classic Zelda. You play an adorable fox, like super cute. And it's this kind of polygonal, stylized overworld. Sort of as is popular these days, not a lot of textures, just a lot of kind of flat surfaces, shaded polygons and stuff. But it looks quite appealing. And the combat looks maybe a little deeper than your traditional Zelda combat. And honestly, I don't know a lot more about it than that, other than that the world design and the aesthetic direction looked neat. The lead looked really cute, the little fox, and it just looked really charming and fun, and I just like the look of it. So that is called Tunic, and it's coming out on PS4, Xbox One, and Windows. OS X too, I think, actually, which is kind of uncommon. Okay, at number 7, a game that is called Moss VR, and this game has something in common with Tunic in that the protagonist is a little creature. It is a mouse, and this game immediately grabbed me because growing up, I loved the Redwall books, which are a series of books about anthropomorphic animals living in a sort of medieval world and going on adventures and things like that. Some of my favorite books growing up, and this game reminded me a lot of Redwall. It looks like you are guiding in virtual reality a little mouse character through these environments that are oversized, of course. Well, they're normal sized, but the mouse is small. But it looks like you're manipulating the environments as sort of a third-party observer to create a path or a way for the mouse to traverse these environments. And the mouse has a little sword, and it looks like he fights bugs and things like that. Like, it looks very cute. He walks on 2 feet, you know. Now, this game has only been announced for PlayStation VR, which is a shame because I don't have PSVR. I really hope it comes to PC to broaden that audience and to give me a chance to play it. I would be very surprised if it didn't, as a matter of fact, but one never knows with these sorts of things. So it's possible that Moss VR will be exclusive to PlayStation VR, but fingers crossed that it'll come to PC. Okay, at number 6, I have Metroid Samus Returns. This E3 was a great one for Metroid fans who have been left out in the cold by Nintendo for quite some time. Some of you may know that Metroid Prime 4 was revealed, or it was announced. It wasn't really, there was no gameplay shown. There's nothing about it other than just a little teaser announcement with the title. And so I didn't put that on my list because there's really nothing to go on, nothing at all. But what we did get to see gameplay of was this Metroid Samus Returns. And this is a 3DS game, side-scrolling 3DS game, and it's a revisiting, a reimagining of Metroid 2, which came out way back in 1991, and it bridged the gap between the original Metroid on the NES and Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. And Metroid 2, this in-betweener, was on Game Boy, actually. And so it's this kind of funny, almost, well, I think it's kind of a forgotten episode in the series in a lot of ways. I never played it, so maybe that's why I feel that way about it. But I've played the original Metroid, and Super Metroid was one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo platform. So I'm really excited to see this piece of Metroid history brought forward with fancy 3D graphics on the 3DS. And it's also nice to see that Nintendo isn't abandoning the 3DS as a platform. It looks like, well, they said when they launched the Switch or announced the Switch that the 3DS and the Switch would live alongside one another as complementary platforms. And a lot of people scoffed at that because Nintendo said such things before, and that was never the case. But it does look, based on what was shown at this year's E3, that, and recent announcements like the Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which are coming out for 3DS, it looks like they are going to continue to support those platforms, or that platform, for at least a while longer. And this Metroid Samus Returns is part of that. So I'm looking forward to picking that up and playing some classic Metroid reimagined. So halfway down the list now, at number 5, I have Assassin's Creed Origins. It's been a long time since I've been interested in an Assassin's Creed game, or even played an Assassin's Creed game. The last one that piqued my interest was Black Flag, I guess, and I must shamefully admit I haven't even gotten around to playing that one. So I sort of checked out of the series a long time ago, but I have been keeping an eye on it because conceptually I do like it. And Assassin's Creed Origins is the first AC game to grab my attention in a very long while. So this is the next installment of Assassin's Creed. It is set in ancient Egypt and on the Mediterranean, it looks like. You might go some other places around the Mediterranean. It was non-specific, but the trailer showed a lot of Egypt, and the gameplay has done so far. And I like a few of the things they're doing with this installment. It looks like they are adopting a more open world strategy, and there's straight up like a compass like up at the top of the screen with question marks on it, like Skyrim style, which is good. It hints at a nice big open world potentially. I've heard people say that it's sort of taking cues from The Witcher as well. Interestingly. It looks like it's going to have a pretty in-depth gearing system where, you kill enemies and they drop loot, essentially, that you can equip on your character. I like what they showed with the hawk for scouting. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of the rest of it looked like pretty standard Assassin's Creed stuff, running, parkour, stabbing, shooting with bows and things like that. But I really like the setting. Like, ancient Egypt is just so cool. A lot of ancient Mediterranean civilizations are stuff that I really enjoy. So I'm sold almost on the setting alone. So I will very likely be playing this installment of Assassin's Creed after a long, long hiatus. And I'm looking very forward to see what Ubisoft was able to do with an extra year. They skipped a year on their Assassin's Creed releases, and I hope that's allowed them to create a fuller, richer, more interesting game. And something to hopefully revitalize the series, maybe, or at least bring people back into the fold, I guess. That's their plan. So, what else have we got here? We've got some peach tea. Let's have a sip. Definitely getting cold now. Definitely getting chilly. Okay. My number 4 pick is sort of cheating. because it's not really a game, but it's something that I wanted to talk about here, and it's something that I am definitely going to be keeping my eye on. And that is the Bethesda Creators Club. Now, this is a contentious topic, and if you go watch the announcement video on Bethesda's channel for the Bethesda Creators Club, it's just getting hammered with dislikes. So the reason this is touchy is because it is essentially paid mods back in different clothing, a different guise, if you will. And some of you might remember back in 2015, Bethesda and Steam jointly launched a paid mods program where modders could post their work for money, and that was an absolute shitstorm. For a lot of reasons. They really bungled the way that they presented that. They bungled the messaging, and there were a lot of things that had not been adequately considered. And at the time, I was pretty upset too. And that was specifically with Skyrim. They were launching that. So severe community backlash. And they ended up pulling the plug on the program like a week later or something. And so they really poisoned the well with the concept of paid mods, but they did say that they were going to go back to the drawing board and see what they could come up with. And this Bethesda Creators Club is their second kick at the can. And immediately, again, very strong community backlash. But there's a number of things that are different about their plan this time. And I personally think it is a well-considered strategy. They clearly thought a lot about it, about how they could provide paid mods in a way that would protect the creators and the consumers and the modding community, while also, obviously, making a little bit of money off of the process, because that's their ultimate goal here, of course. They are a business. So, essentially, what Bethesda Creators Club plans to do is accept applications from modders, essentially accept pitches, development documents, if you will, for new mods, 100% new mods. So the first important thing is that old mods will not be allowed to be retrofitted for this program. So no existing mods will end up being paid mods, will not be suddenly costing money. So that's a very important distinction for one. So they will accept these applications for new mods from modders. They will review the applications, and then they will invite or select a small subset of those creators to work closely with Bethesda, with the developers, and they'll have access to the full development pipeline, as they call it, from working with programmers and I guess artists at Bethesda, presumably, to having access to QA and support services and all that stuff. And during this time, the modder will be paid by Bethesda. I don't know if they've released or said anything about what the rates will be, but presumably they'll be livable, hopefully reasonable or wages. And the modder will produce the mod with support from the developers at Bethesda. And then the mods will be fully curated and QA tested by Bethesda before being released on their store, at which point gamers can use credits to download the mods, or purchase the mods, download them, and install them in their games. And Right now, it's just the 2 games, Fallout 4 and Skyrim Special Edition, that are going to be supported. That's my understanding, anyway. But, you know, guys, I think this is a pretty well thought out paid mod strategy. And it's pretty clear that Bethesda is intent on making the paid mods happen one way or another. And I think what's important about this is, one, no existing mods can be retrofitted. That's really important. 2, there is going to be some level of curation and quality assurance, and hopefully, although I don't know if they've specified, but I'm assuming post-launch support for these mods. So you can be confident that your purchase is never going to be subsequently broken by an update or anything like that. And 3 is that this really gets at the core of the issue, which is that paid mods will, in my opinion, I believe, allow for more higher quality content to be produced for these games. And that is absolutely something that we all want to see. I think, anyway, I would be thrilled to have more high quality content for Skyrim and Fallout 4, because those are awesome games and I'm happy to spend more time in them. And I'm happy to pay some money for that privilege as well, if the quality of the content is up to par, and if I know that the mod creators are getting their fair share, and if I can be confident in my purchase and know that it's going to work in perpetuity, that it's not going to break, and those sorts of things. And so I really do think that the Bethesda Creators Club is getting a lot of unfair, negative backlash because of the specter of the former paid mods fiasco, which was done in entirely the wrong way. But I like the idea of supporting modders. I like the idea of having more awesome content for those games. And I think this is a reasonable first step towards that. And so I am willing to sit back and wait and see what comes out of this. The proof will be in the pudding, as they say. And I really hope we get some high quality stuff at reasonable prices out of this, and that it's a win-win all around. As for the existing modding community, I think that will continue to exist as it does. Again, no old mods can be retrofitted for this new program. And I think, free mods are going to continue. There's no doubt about that. And I hope that the community doesn't change too much. I just hope this allows for modders who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to dedicate their time full-time to making awesome content for us to enjoy. That's what I'm hoping. And I think this is a reasonable attempt at that. But I am also entirely willing to hear arguments to the opposite and other opinions. So, of course, I would love to hear from you down in the comments about this. If you have some good, logical, well thought out justifications for why this program may not work, I would like to hear that, because right now I think most of the negativity around it is a knee-jerk response to the concept of paid mods, based on the last time they tried this. So that is the Bethesda Creators Club, coming in at number 4 on my list of announcements from this E3. And we don't know. I assume it's coming to Xbox, PS4, and PC, that storefront of paid mods, but I don't know that they did confirm that it was coming to all those platforms. I suspect it will. Okay, we're getting serious now. We've entered the top 3 games or things that were announced at E3 2017. At number 3, I have another kind of cop-out, I guess, or a cheat, but the Switch Pokemon RPG. We know literally nothing about this aside from the fact that there is a main series Pokemon RPG in development for the Switch. It's going to be more than a year before we see it, and they haven't showed us anything about it, and they're probably not going to for quite some time. So I know that I didn't put Metroid Prime 4 on this list because we didn't have anything to go on, so it's a little unfair for me to put the Switch Pokemon entry on here, but you guys know I love Pokemon, and if anything is, going to excite me about the Switch, and actually, I mean, a lot of stuff does, but certainly a main series Pokemon game is up there. And I've, like many of you, had this concept or image in my mind for a long time of what a really lavish Pokemon game could be, something that breaks free of the restrictions of a mobile platform to become this really full-fledged, deep game. And I think finally we're at the point where Nintendo is putting a main series Pokemon game on a platform that is capable of that kind of game. Like, imagine, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Pokemon, something like that, merging together, like a big open world Pokemon game where you can go and explore in the wild and find all kinds of Pokemon and battle trainers and things. Something that's not so linear, not so hand-holdy. Basically, I want to see Pokemon grow up a bit into what I think it has the potential to be. Now, this is me projecting my desires. There's no indication that that's what this next entry in the Pokemon series is going to be. But I am hopeful that Game Freak and the Pokemon Company and Nintendo will all see that it's time for the series to grow up with its target audience and become something more. And I think the Switch platform is finally in the place, has the hardware and the ability to do that. So I'm just really excited about the concept of a main series Pokemon game on Switch. So it had to make my list. Okay, at number 2, I have something that I didn't expect to be so impressed by, but it's called Anthem, and it is the new game from BioWare Edmonton, and it is a sci-fi persistent online shooter with strong co-op components. It kind of looks like BioWare's Destiny in a lot of ways. And it has some echoes of Mass Effect as well in terms of the combat. It's third-person shooting. And lots of jetpacking and flying around and stuff. And if you haven't watched the trailer for Anthem, go watch it, like the longer version. There's one, like a teaser that was kind of like a story teaser. But the gameplay trailer looks really, really cool. I love the world building they've done. Now, it's worth noting this is BioWare Edmonton, who's responsible for a lot of the more beloved BioWare games. Mass Effect Andromeda was developed by a relatively green studio called BioWare Montreal. But the Edmonton guys are the veterans, and they've been working on Anthem for a very long time, by the sounds of it. And so yeah, it's this third-person, persistent world online co-op shooter, sci-fi, obviously, set on, I guess, a planet of some kind that's full of this alien wildlife and these lush, jungle-ish environments. And it looks like you do a lot of your exploration by sort of like jetting around and maneuvering through these very like natural looking environments with all these sort of layers to them. It looks really cool. Now, in the trailer, they do that thing where they have the fake gamer banter. Like they have people, like actors who are posing as gamers, and the dialogue is just so cringy. Like, you can't do that well. It can never be done well. But I guess they did it as well as you could imagine that being done. Like, you just gotta watch it. Like, it's cringy fake gamer talk, but you know, I think that the gameplay they show speaks for itself, and it looks pretty cool. And this was one of my unexpected top games from this year's E3. And I don't know, I'll be keeping a close eye on it because I really like the concept, and I really like the developer. So we'll see what they manage to pull off. And that is coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and Windows. Okay, here we are, guys, at number 1. I'm gonna take a sip of tea before we get to number 1. So, my number 1 game from E3 2017 was Age of Empires Definitive Edition. And a lot of you guys are probably like, what? This is an HD remake, essentially. Not a remastering, it is a remake with totally redone assets and graphics and music and everything, updated gameplay of the original Age of Empires. And a lot of you probably don't know, but Age of Empires is one of my all-time favorite series. I played it back in the late 90s when AoE 1 first came out, and I have a lot of nostalgia for that. And like I said earlier when I was talking about Assassin's Creed, I'm a huge sucker for ancient Mediterranean history. And that is essentially what Age of Empires is. You know, it's all about ancient civilizations of the Mediterranean and Near East and Middle East. And it's an RTS, right? You know, you build your base, you make your units. It is an RTS in the old 90s style. And so this definitive edition, they're calling it, like I said, they've redone all of the models, and it looks like what they've done is they've modeled them in 3D and then turned them into sprites, which is the same technique that was originally used for the Age of Empires games. They've redone all the tile sets, they've re-recorded all the music with a live orchestra. They're bringing in all kinds of modern convenience features that you expect out of RTSs, like idle villager button and all that kind of attack move, those sorts of things that the original game just doesn't have because of when it was released. You know, it was 1997. And there were a lot of conventions that just hadn't really developed then, a lot of quality of life features that hadn't been conceived of. And so all that's being brought into the game. And this is the loving homage to Age of Empires that an AoE nerd like me is just so thrilled about. I've thought many times over the years, wouldn't it be so cool if they went back and did something just like this? But I thought it was a pipe dream. Like, I didn't think there was enough support for that series, or that people didn't care enough anymore for Microsoft, who owns it, to invest that much money in revitalizing a classic game, especially the first in the series. You know, like there's AoE 2 HD on Steam, and that's been doing very well and has received a couple of expansions, and I love that as well. But I didn't know if there was enough love for AoE 1 out there. to make something like this happen, but here it is. It's happened, and I could not be more pleased. And again, this is going to sound crazy to some of you who don't have any association or care for Age of Empires or nostalgia for that series, but just imagine your favorite game from, your childhood or whatever, and imagine it getting this sort of loving upresing, this recreation treatment, and being brought forward onto modern PCs or modern systems, and that's what this is like, and it just feels really great, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And there was some hint, a small hint, but a hint nonetheless, that we might hear something more about the Age of Empires series at Gamescom. Could it be Age of Empires 4? I don't know. You'd think they'd announce that at E3 if they were working on it, but you never know. I hope. Fingers crossed. It's time for an Age of Empires renaissance. We need an AoE 4. I don't know what that would be. I don't know how they would bring that series forward and modernize it, but I want to see them try. So, that completes my top 10 games, with the exception of Bethesda Creators Club, of E3 2017. This has, as ever, been a lengthy ramble, but I hope you enjoyed it. And one of my favorite things about E3 is talking to other gamers and enthusiasts about all this exciting new stuff. So please do feel free to leave a comment down below about the things I've talked about here today, or some of your top games from E3 2017. And once again, if you like, follow me on Twitter, friend me on Facebook. Those links are down below, and I'm quite responsive there, so I'd love to see you there. All right, thank you all so much for watching today, and I look very forward to having you back here next time. Bye for now.